My name is Charles Martin, and I am a Nationals fan. And I'm a lawyer. Don't boo lawyers. You might need one. In Florida, I worked in Florida and I worked in DC. And this is my first SABR conference. And I have two agendas here, an open agenda and kind of a hidden agenda. The open agenda is that I, like many fans in DC and the Maryland and Virginia suburbs, we're kind of like the Rip Van Winkles, I think, of baseball. You know, we were unconscious for 34 years because we had no local team. And then, in 2005, we got a local team again, but we missed a lot, and so I missed, the designated hitter and the cut fastball and the closer. So we're still catching up. We're running to catch up, and I figured this conference is a great way to do that. Then I have kind of a legal reform agenda that I'd like you to get interested in, that I'd like you to care about. The first one is related to my poster that's in the other room, and I describe it, the subject of that is stopping little guys from competing with big guys, right? And baseball's kind of a reflection of society. So who the big guy is, who the little guy is, that changes over time. That poster is about employees being little guys, like the baseball players, who for 100 years, couldn't choose who they worked for if they wanted to work in baseball. And at some point, it was people who wanted to own baseball teams, right? You ever heard of the Chicago Whales? Raise your hand if you've heard of the Chicago Whales. Oh, okay, I'm in the right place. Right, they wanted to compete with the American League and the National League and the Federal League, and they built what's now called Wrigley Stadium. That was a Major League Stadium, and they were not a minor league team. The Baltimore Terrapins were another Federal League team, and that is the issue of antitrust, and I'm against the antitrust exemption for baseball, but that's for another panel. This legal reform issue here is about arbitration. And I'm going to talk what you do know about in this subject, the Nationals against the Orioles, is that in 2005, the Montreal Expos moved from Montreal to become the Washington Nationals. And if you're here in Miami about Jeffrey Loria. Jeffrey Loria owned the Montreal Expos. They were about to go bankrupt, and MLB bought them from Loria, and then they did a switch. John Henry here was the owner of the Marlins, and he wanted to own the Red Sox. And when that happened, then Loria took over the Miami Marlins. You might know, if you really cared a lot, what the vote was on that move. The vote on that move had to be approved by the other baseball teams was 29-1. And the one who voted against that move was the owner of the Baltimore Orioles, Peter Angelos, because he was getting a lot of fans from DC. He said there were, 25% or more of his fans, and if you put a team 40 miles away, it's going to kill my team. Oh, I can't do that. I'm going to sue. Well, he didn't have a right to stop the move. Some teams have rights under the Constitution and the Major League rules. They have a territory that's protected. Washington, D.C. was not in his territory, so he couldn't stop him, but he said he could sue anyway. And since he's a class action lawyer, and that's what he does every day, in his 80s still, what's it to him? Go to court again. And baseball does not like to be sued by one of their owners and go to court, right? Because you go to court and you gotta, talk about your internal affairs, your inside baseball operations, right? You know, everybody knows that term, inside baseball, means different things. Well, that's the last thing that Major League Baseball wants to expose in court. But, so what they did with Peter Angelos was say, look, let's settle this threat you're tossing around. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to have a contract between the Montreal Expos and Major League Baseball and the Orioles and this cable sports channel called Masson and Mid-Atlantic Sports Network that they owned at that time was just brought cablecasting Orioles games. And we're going to make you happy by letting you and your cable sports channel cablecast not just the Orioles games, but the Nationals games too. The ones that aren't being broadcast by Fox and the other big networks. That is unique in baseball, that 2005 sports contract. And the interesting thing about contracts is if they're made with if they're made with people, people can die, and that's the end of the contract, usually. But if they're made with corporations, corporations can last forever. And that contract has no expiration date. It will go on forever. That contract also gave, I'll just call them the Orioles, Peter Angelos is the majority owner, 90% of the shares of the cable sports channel that broadcasts the games of two teams. It also said whatever the sports channel pays in rights fees to the teams will be equal, no matter what the ratings are. Orioles get, or Nationals get X, Orioles get X. So, Peter Angelos and his son, who negotiated that contract, were very happy in 2005. And they were happy for a long time after that because the fees that were originally set were intentionally set so that like $25 million, $27 million a year to broadcast all these games. Intentionally set so that the sports channel can make a profit and that would make up for whatever fans were not going to Baltimore anymore. But somebody, Bud Stelling, somebody in the office, was smart enough to say, we can't let him just pay $27 million forever, to broadcast games of these teams. Things change, and the country grows, and more people watch. So every 5 years, we're going to have a reset of the rights fees to market value, whatever that is. Okay, that's fair? Everybody said okay, everybody signed it. And so, Angelos was very happy. Lerner, billionaire who bought the Expos from MLB, was happy because, he got billions. It wasn't, whatever he paid, $300, $450 million, he wouldn't notice. MLB was happy most of all because they got the Expos off of their hands. They got a bankrupt baseball team off their hands that every team owned 1/3 of them. In fact, there's a quote in the book, The Game, all about Bud Stelling, basically, that came out this year, that says, we just wanted to get that team off our hands, and they did. And when they set up this television contract, they basically wanted to keep, all they wanted was to keep Peter Angelos from suing them, as he threatened to. But that only lasted until 2014, when he did sue them. Because after the first 5 years, when the rights fees to be paid by the channel to both teams was to be reset, the first thing they were supposed to do was to negotiate. Well, here's how the negotiations went. Peter Angelos offered more. Instead of $27 million, he offered $37 million. And here's what Lerner and the Nationals asked for, $109 million. All of this is in my slides. I'm not going to go slide by slide. It's on my website, lawyerball.com. I've written a book about this. called the lawyer ball. And supposedly, the Nationals representative took the Orioles offer and threw it back in the face of the Orioles fan. This is what they said in court. I wasn't there. So, negotiations over. After the negotiations, the next step was supposed to be mediation. Nobody even wasted time with mediation. Mediation is to make everybody play nice, and if they don't want to play nice, mediator's not going to get it done. The third step was arbitration. This is all spelled out in the contract if the parties cannot agree after 5 years on what the new rights fees will be. The arbitrators, three-person arbitration panel, were the owners or representatives of the owners of the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the New York Mets. Okay? It was not an ad hoc arbitration panel. It was an existing arbitration panel called the Revenue Sharing Distribution, something, that was set up to look at how, to prevent teams from hiding revenue that's supposed to be shared under baseball revenue sharing arrangements. Raise your hand if you know that baseball has a revenue sharing arrangement. Okay? Right. Well, and so to make sure nobody's hiding any money, they have this panel to look at it. So yeah, we already got this panel, and they know about television market contract, market value, television contract market values. So if the Orioles and the Nationals can't agree, we'll give it to them. Okay. They gave it to them in 2012, which was when the second 5-year period was supposed to begin. And it took them about 6 months to come up with a number. Because they said, look, we do this all the time. We have these outside consultants, the Works group that looks at sports values. And the issue that was in the background is that the value of televised sports was going up between 2005 and 2012, right? Because it's live, it has a young male audience, and people were paying more and more and more for that. So the arbitration panel, MLB Arbitration panel, said, basically they split the difference. They came up with some numbers. Instead of 109 million or instead of 37 million, it was between 50 and 60 million, right? Okay, so that was in 2012. But Selig kind of understood Peter Angelos, I think, and that he wasn't going to be happy first paying more money, and also with the fact that these rights were going to continue to increase in the future, and the more the cable channel paid out for rights, the less the cable channel was going to be worth. The less that 90% that he owned of the sports channel was going to be worth, because they're spending all their money on rights, and that's what's been happening with other sports-based regional baseball channels, Texas, everywhere. So what Selig tried to do between 2012 and 2014 was to sell that channel to Comcast so that Angelos could monetize the channel, which was worth more than the Orioles. The channel is worth almost $500 million because it had a 20% plus profit margin. The Orioles were only worth $350 million, according to Forbes. You can look at all of it. I've got all the footnotes in my slides on my website. But he couldn't do it because Comcast isn't stupid either. They see the rights fees going up, and after 2 years, it was just clear Comcast does not want a regional sports channel that is declining in value because it's paying out more and more money to the teams whose games they're broadcasting. So finally, at the end of June 2014, now Manfred is the commissioner, got to do something. You know, he says, okay, we'll let it rip. You know, let's issue this arbitration decision that we made 2 years ago and been, you know, keeping it in the closet. In the meantime, they've also lent $25 million, it's kind of a side issue, to the Nationals to help their cash flow. The Nationals are saying, you know, we can't bid for free agents because, you know, we're getting underpaid and we're not getting paid at all. They haven't been paid at all by Angelos since 2012, these rights fees, because Angelos, you know, doesn't want to concede that he owes them, you know, anyway. So then MLB lent $25 million, you know, to tide over the billionaire learner. And this became an issue because less than 1 week after MLB finally issued the 2012 arbitration in 2014, boom, Angelos files a petition to vacate the arbitration award in the state trial court in New York. Now, to make a long story short, because I've got a notice here, he's a good lawyer. You know, he's got a good legal team, and I taught law, and I always taught my students the throw the spaghetti against the wall idea. You know, don't forget to make an argument that might win, because you don't know what the judge might agree with. So make every reasonable offer that you can come up with, and so argument that you can come up with. And so they argued that because it's hard. First of all, it's hard to overturn an arbitration award. You know, the whole reason for having arbitration is so you don't go to court. And so they had to come up with something. And they argued that there was corruption, fraud. Strike one. Judge said no. The award exceeded the arbitrator's scope of authority or was made with manifest disregard of the law. No. Strike two. There was prejudicial misconduct by the arbitrators. No. Strike three. There was evident partiality by MLB. He's also suing MLB, as well as the Nationals, because of this $25 million loan. And you really wanted them to win so you could get your $25 million back. MLB really needs $25 million. Strike four. In court, you have 4 strikes. But the 5th strike was that Manfred's old law firm called Proskauer Rose, in this RSDC arbitration, they were the advisors to the administrators of the arbitration, you know, saying, because arbitration is kind of loosey-goosey in terms of procedures, so it's kind of, you can make up your procedures as you go along. They were the advisors to the arbitrators as to what, you know, procedures to follow, while they were the biggest law firm for MLB. They were advisors to the Orioles, they were advisors to the Nationals, and on certain matters, they were advisors to each one of those 3 arbitrator clubs. So Angelos very early objected to all these hats that this Proskauer Rose law firm was wearing, and that's the spaghetti strand that stuck to the wall. Because the only response of MLB to all these arguments was, well, the only thing they did in response to your objection of this conflict of the lawyers was to tell the Orioles, well, we're no longer representing you, but we're still representing everybody else. So the judge, in December 2015, vacated the award. And the Orioles said, okay, Judge, you're going to do this, don't send it back to MLB, because they're going to mess us over again. Send it to the American Arbitration Association that will be neutral, assuming Proskauer Rose doesn't represent them too. Judge said, look, I'm not going to rewrite the contract. Just go away. You know, we got murders here, we got all kinds of stuff in this court. You're not going to do this. And so since then, the Orioles, even though they won, appealed. They appealed winning the vacating of the award because of this last issue. So that's where it is now. It's on appeal. Questions about these lawyers and their activities? Okay, got one here, yes?
Don't you agree that the whole thing began because Sealy didn't have the cojones to negotiate something with Angelos when Angelos was threatening to sue about the Expos moving to D.C. And then if Sealy had done something a little more proactive, I live in McLean, Virginia, I'm an Oriole fan, and the Nats fan wouldn't have the situation, but Sealy simply ducked and really did make a decision with any strength. He let the Angelos threat to sue cause what we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes.
In other words, he should have called his bluff.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing about that is, I don't know that Peter Angelos, bluffs. He's a tough guy. I mean, he's going up against, drug companies. So, from Selleck's point of view, he made 28 other owners who didn't want to own the Expos happy, and that was enough for him. Yes?
Isn't one of the other problems the fact that Proskauer Rose is almost like a 25 armed octopus within the legal community as far as sports management is concerned? They produced 2 NBA commissioners, they produced an MLB commissioner, they produced an NHL commissioner. All of those guys came from Proskauer Rose. It's penetrated almost everything. Where are people going to get a second or third law firm that's going to have that same kind of service capability?
Well, they obviously have a lot of expertise that would be hard to reproduce. So, there's no law against the law firm kind of monopolizing the sports law advisory business. So I don't have an answer, but it's a great question. Yes.
Angelos claimed that it was one of her attendants Washington having a team. The first year of 2007, I think it was the first year of 2007, the combined attendance for Baltimore, Washington was about 5.5 million, which wasn't bad. And the funny thing, a few years later, Baltimore outdrew Washington by 1.25 fans per game. It was just 100 fans difference between those two teams.
Yeah. The Orioles had like 19 straight losing seasons until about 2000, a year or two after the Expos moved to Washington. Since then, they've been pretty good, I think partly because they have more money from this cable deal that wouldn't exist if you didn't have a team in Washington. So it's just, one of my themes is competition is good. Competition is good for the economy. Everybody wins. And anti-competitive actions, whether it's Proskauer Rose monopolizing the legal field or a team monopolizing or a group of teams monopolizing professional baseball because Oliver Wendell Holmes made a terrible decision back in 1922, is not helping anybody except a smaller interest. Yes.
With the Oakland A's, they probably trying to use this logic or some sort of logic like this, then to move into
San Jose.
San Jose. But every time it comes up, it goes to court.
Right.
Sorry, you can't do it, and we can't go. It's funny because we can't go back to years earlier when Walter Haas said to the Giants, "Well, it's all right for you to come to our territory," but now obviously 30 years later.
No good deed goes unpunished. Walter Haas is the owner of the Oakland A's, and he had a right to the San Jose territory when the Giants wanted to move to Tampa Bay, and they said, "Oh well, if you give us the rights to the San Jose territory, maybe we won't move." So Walter Haas said, "Okay," and then they leveraged that against the city of San Francisco to have a new stadium in San Francisco to get out of Candlestick Park. Okay, I think that's my time. Thank you very much.